Welcome to the Saul Nerds Podcast. I'm Dan Vedebonker.
And I'm Kenton Larson.
And of course, we are going to discuss the final two episodes of Better Call Saul. The finale, of course, aired on Monday evening. I just finished watching it this morning, actually.
Yeah.
But first, Kenton, I have to compliment you on an excellent TikTok you posted this morning. This has more to do with Star Wars. We're going to start watching Obi-Wan on Friday, and you posted an Obi-Wan related TikTok.
I did. I just carried my Obi-Wan Kenobi action figure. And it's the worst one, by the way, with spring action legs for no apparent reason. So just to make sure you can't stand him up or seat him in a goddamn thing, he's got spring-loaded legs. And so I walked around the house with him and I did a parody of the Expedia commercial where he goes, "Stuff. We've all got stuff." And I end with the ironic look at my collection of Star Wars toys, which is nothing but stuff.
Right. I love it.
And so I think Ewan McGregor is working at cross purposes with his Expedia campaign and his role in Star Wars. Stop collecting stuff, everybody.
Well, I feel like
Ben Kenobi this Friday.
I feel like the people at Expedia weren't talking to the people at Disney, and they got their wires crossed there. But I wonder how much of your stuff specifically has Ewan's face on it. Right? How much stuff do you have specifically in your room? Because you fill a shelf with it.
Quite a bit, including I have Padawan Ewan McGregor. I've got the 6-inch Ewan McGregor. I've got the 3-inch. I've got Attack of the Clones, Sith, Phantom Menace, Ewan McGregor's.
Wow. They made a bunch of them. They made a lot. And of course, and we're going to get to see him again, another version of him again in Obi-Wan starting on Friday. And that's what we're going to talk about on this podcast in the weeks ahead. But for today, we're going to talk about Better Call Saul, which finished its first 7 episodes. And it was excellent, of course. A lot to talk about. Of course, we're going to get to spoilers. So spoiler warning, if you haven't watched the last 2 episodes of Better Call Saul, we're going to talk about everybody who died. People died.
We're at the mid-season finale, but it wasn't supposed to be a mid-season finale. Did you see that? One of the writers on the show tweeted, "Just keep this in mind. It is not. We did not plan it to be a mid-season finale. That's just the way it worked out." And I think it's because of Bob Odenkirk's medical problem that he had, and so then they had to. So they finished a certain number of them, and then had to take a hiatus and then complete it apparently. And so it wasn't, it played out like a mid-season finale, I have to say, with a cliffhanger and everything. But apparently that is not the case. That is not the intention at the time of the writing of the episodes. To be fair, I found that really interesting.
Yeah, to be fair, I mean, every episode ends on a cliffhanger, so it's like they could have ended it anywhere and it would have been okay. But
maybe.
I was thinking about that because there's a scene in which he's doing a lot of running, like full-on running, as hard as you can. You know that's as fast as Bob Odenkirk can run. And I'm like, was that what led to the heart attack? Was that it? Right? That's exactly the kind of behavior that could lead to it.
In the New Mexican heat.
Yeah.
Which would have been terrible. It's always terrible. Is it ever like a light breeze? I don't think so. So it's probably, wait a sec. Did I say New Mexico?
Yeah.
New Mexico, right?
Yeah. Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Every time I speak out loud on this podcast, later on, I think about it. I'm like, wrong place. Oh, God. So New Mexico, right. So it's going to be hot. He was running. He had rubber gloves on, too, while he was running.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're getting ahead of ourselves, though.
Yeah. But there you go. That's the recipe for a heat stroke, if not a stroke.
Yeah.
A stroke.
Now, this of course, now I'm going to get confused with the episode I just watched and the episode that I watched last week, as we always do.
I was going to say, we're going to do a 40-minute podcast, and really, it all leads up to this last episode. Mm-hmm. That's what both of them are about, and I think we should just cut to the chase and get to the last episode.
Okay.
And just say, because there was 2 things in play. There's Lalo running around, the cartel story, and then there's the legal story with Kim and Jimmy punking Howard. Punking, that's a very light way to describe what they're doing, but punking Howard.
Wow, yeah.
It was more than Ashton Kutcher would have done. Let's put it that way.
No kidding.
So why don't we talk about this last episode? I think there's lots to talk about in this last episode.
I too. I just want to see if anything happened quickly in the episode before that. I just want to see where we're at now. Episode 7. But while we're on this topic of mid-season finales, it's interesting because recently Stranger Things announced its release dates, and it's also got a big break in between, like a month between the first and second half of it or something like that. It's phase 1, phase 2. What are they calling it? I don't remember. But it's basically Netflix's way of trying to like adapt to what is becoming a very successful release schedule, just 1 week at a time, like we used to do it back in the day. That's the way Disney Plus is doing it. That's the way Prime is doing it. Netflix is refusing to do that, and they are just like digging in on, hey, but the problem is everyone binges it and then doesn't talk about it after that. So everyone will love Stranger Things for the first weekend that it's out, and then it'll go away like everything else does. And Netflix doesn't want that. So that's why they're doing it. And I think that's why AMC is doing this as well, unless, I don't know, what else was the reason for the break?
Well, it was the medical issue.
Oh, sorry, you just said that already, didn't you?
Okay, right. I think that was probably it. I could be wrong.
But that contributed to it, I'm sure. Never mind. I just went on a big thing.
Well, but also don't forget that Breaking Bad was done. They said our last season's coming up, and they broke it into 2, and they were a year apart.
Right.
And it was just, it was so painful.
It could just be network BS is what it could be, right? Like, it could just be the network. They're the ones, and the network, it's funny that the writer said that because the network's the one saying all over the marketing of it, mid-season finale, and the writers are like, no, it wasn't meant to be that. Stop calling it that. Okay.
Well, there's also, they also had to make a decision, right? About where, they could have paused it earlier and then shown the rest of the episode. So, I mean, a decision had to come into play at some point. So the idea that when we wrote it, we didn't plan it as the mid-season finale. All right, fair enough, but it works as a mid-season finale.
Yeah, so in episode 6, right, the second to last was called Axe and Grind, and it's basically Howard is getting information from his PI, about Jimmy, who's got following Jimmy around.
It's not his PI.
Well, we learned that, this guy's working for... And honestly, I was a bit behind on stuff. Some of the stuff I was ahead of, some of the stuff I wasn't, and it took me a minute to clue into that being the same guy. I'm sorry that there's a lot of, no offense, bald guys with glasses out there, but it's just, I get confused when similar looking characters are on the screen, and I just didn't clue into that right away.
I got confused about something in the final episode that we'll talk about when we get there. So I think maybe we're both confused about something we didn't need to be confused about.
Right, and that happens in the show because you're not sure what details to pay attention to and what details aren't important.
Right,
there's a lot of red herrings.
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, I do it constantly. Yeah, go ahead.
What else? And then Howard... So I'm just reading through the summary here. Cliff invites Kim to Santa Fe. Oh yeah, Kim has got this opportunity to, I don't know, pitch some kind of big thing. Like it seems to be, and we see a lot of background with Kim. We see also the opening with her and her mom, right, when she shoplifted. I don't know. That was like showing that she kind of comes from a life of crime, I guess, is what that's supposed to say.
Yeah, that. I mean, we learn in the finale, Howard puts it together and figures something out, and so do we at the same time. But they show in the past that she shoplifts, and she's rewarded for the behavior from her mother, so it's in her DNA in some ways. The earrings and necklace that she stole, she still wears those earrings.
I didn't notice that either, actually.
As an adult, she still wears them. So there's a lesson that she took from that experience that she that comes to bear with what she and Jimmy are up to. And once again, the idea is more fully explored in the finale, and I think we get to the heart of what's going on. Why are they doing this to Howard? Well, we find out.
Yeah, and that's really what this episode is. It's kind of setting up all the little pieces that happens in the finale. So we're seeing glimpses of this. He goes to the vet to get that, whatever that stuff is, and we don't know why he needs that. And then they go and they shoot. We get my favorite, the film crew. I love these guys so much. We get a lot of them in the finale, but I love even in this one that we see them setting up to. We don't know what he's doing. They're taking photos. They've got this guy looking like one of the other guys or something. We don't know who he's supposed to look like. But then it all comes together in the final episode when they're basically looking to stick it to Howard. Right, that's the thing. This has all come together so they can embarrass Howard in front of everybody at the day of the sandpaper settlement hearing.
When I watched that episode, by the time the finale played, I had a decent sense of how it was going to play out. I sort of already, when I thought it through, I thought, the PI cannot be Howard's PI. I thought that's how do you poison? How do you poison? Well, I guess they did poison Howard, but how do you poison him? Then I thought, soft drinks, and there was like sort of a hint of that in the finale and some other things. But when you really thought it through, you could figure out what they were going to do. Though when they called into the meeting in the finale, I expected something different to happen there. At the end of the second last episode, I believe that is the visual metaphor of Kim Breaking Bad when she's on her way to she all the forces of good. She's on her way to the meeting, and then she does the U-turn, and she makes a 180 and decides to break bad. Mm-hmm. She decides that they need.
Yeah, because he gives her a note, right? He says, "No, we can regroup, figure this out.
We can't do it. The judge has a broken arm. We can't do it."
Yeah, that's right.
And she's like, "No, we can do it. We can. It's going to happen." And she makes the U-turn, and off she goes, and that's how that episode ends. But that's. I mean, you could call that Kim's Breaking Bad, I think, where she just goes all in.
Yeah, for sure. And then that brings us into the last episode, and we start with, I think it's really a taste of my life as an instructor. I just felt so seen, I guess. I don't know how I'd say it, but this is kind of a part of what it is explaining equipment to people and telling them to be careful with it. I do quite a bit of that. So we see, go ahead.
You also mansplain the cameras, and then at the end,
not the cameras.
This is for our cheers. This is for you. This camera. Are you very precious about your cameras?
These guys, these characters, this film crew, I don't know their names, of course, but the three of them have just been so awesome throughout the series, and I'm glad we had a lot of time with them in this episode because they're just my favorite part of Better Call Saul. And so we have this they all come together. We got the one in the makeup girls in her dark crystal cosplay. That was awesome. I love the dark crystal nod. And it was really kind of a cool way in which they all kind of came together. He has to talk the shopping cart guy into getting in the car and like, let's go, it's fracting or whatever. He gets to be motivated to do it. And he's doing what he does best. He's Saul Goodman, right? He's doing the best Saul he can. And Kim's there helping him every step of the way. Kim is like right there with him. Now I think this is going to backfire. I don't know, but my prediction is while there's a part of this where you see Kim run up, they got all confused for a second, right? When they were shooting that sequence because they were rushing and they don't know what they're doing. And so there's a part which both Saul and the actor are looking at the camera, and Kim's running into the shot to tell them what to do. And the camera was still going. You still heard the snapping, and you heard the guy say, change film. I think that first roll of film is going to end up somewhere.
Yeah, I actually thought that they were that a element of the plan would go wrong. And at the time, I was paying attention. The shoe was in the shot,
right?
Her running up and back, and I thought, no, that's it. This is gonna.
Or they're gonna mix up the photos. They're gonna develop the wrong photos.
They're gonna deliver the wrong.
Oh, these are all just red herrings, aren't they? Yes. These are all just red herrings.
Even the guy developing the film says, "Go away. It takes my masterwork to do it." And I thought he was gonna screw it up. He's gonna put the wrong photos in the envelope, and Jimmy wasn't gonna check. That's what I thought, because part of me still thinks an element of their plan maybe should have gone wrong. And I guess in a way it does, but we'll talk about that more.
Why do you say that though?
Because I think the lesson for these two that needed to be learned, they did learn the lesson the hardest possible way at the end of the episode. But that I thought there would be an earlier lesson which would put Kim on the lam, which would implicate Kim in some way, and the photo would have done that, or where she would have to run, or she would have to find an explanation. Probably she'd try to find some explanation. They try to explain it away somehow. But I expected an element of the plan to not go to plan, and the whole time I was studying the details, thinking it's not going to go right. It's going to go sideways because they're rushing. And by the way, speaking of, who is the real villain on Better Call Saul? Advertising and media production. TV ads, billboard ads, and photography.
Right.
That's the real villain that facilitates all of their plan.
The one thing that I think that could still go wrong for, well, I mean, obviously we'll talk about what happens at the end of the episode, but as far as Kim's concerned, I mean, she may have blown her chance with Ed Begley Jr. and that whole thing.
Yeah.
Given that she blew it off to go do this, but the other thing is that could still come up at some point and then blow her chance with something going. Like she seems to really want to do good, right? She works to help people who can't afford lawyers. She's pro bono. She tries to be better. Like we see examples of it, and even in the second to last episode, we see that argument she has about the traffic ticket or whatever, right? Where she helps that kid get off of that bullshit being pulled over. So she wants to do good in the world, but she just, can't quite get there, right? She just keeps getting pulled. It's like what's the thing? Pull me back in. They keep pulling her back in. Yeah. And I think that, sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second. Anyway, you go ahead. I lost what I was going to say.
Yeah. What part are we on here? Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Ed Begley Jr. That was the part that I wanted to mention.
That'll get screwed up.
I thought that he was supposed to be at the meeting that she was driving to, but in fact, he was at the pitch. He was at the at the mediation, and so I was now I don't know if that detail got that detail confused. Maybe Ed Begley Jr. just set up that meeting for her to go and pitch, but I thought that was the other thing I thought was going on that was nothing. I thought that we were going to see him. Where was she driving? Vegas, was it? Wherever somewhere she was driving.
Somewhere. No. Santa Fe. Santa Fe.
All right. Wherever she was driving, I thought we were going to see Ed Begley sitting there looking disappointed. Like, I can't understand why she didn't show up. But in fact, he was not there. He was at the law office. There for the presentation, or I guess the mediation. Pardon me, it wasn't a presentation.
Yeah, it was a mediation and a settlement. They're trying to settle that lawsuit, right? They're going to do more settlement. Now, I have to say, while we're on the topic, Ed Begley Jr. has just been amazing in this series. Yes. He's like, holy crap! I didn't know he was still around, and we haven't seen him in years, and then he just kind of shows up and just kills it. On
subtle, understated performance. It's a very good performance.
Yeah. And you just forget about everything, because he was such a common face in the 80s and 90s, right? He was just everywhere, and it was St. Elsewhere.
St. Elsewhere, right?
Yeah,
it was great in St. Elsewhere.
Right, but that was so, and then you haven't seen him forever. But for him to kind of come around and just quietly play this very normal, regular guy that all this shit keeps happening to. And it's funny because it all came together in a way that I think Jimmy predicted, in that it doesn't matter whether or not he believes that Howard is a drug addict or any of that stuff. It's already out there. People will believe. It's the reputation has been damaged, and the way it all comes together is brilliant. You're right. Something more should have gone wrong. It's not realistic that it all would have gone. I guess the thing going wrong was the fact that he had a cast. I guess that's what they're saying was the thing that would go wrong, right?
But there was so much last minute work. And Jimmy's not.
And we know what that's like. We know what last minute work is like, right?
You're going to make a mistake, and I kept waiting for what is this mistake going to be. What is it going to be? It's going to be something. It's not going to be perfect. And they're going to have to scramble. And I thought seeing them scramble was only fair. It could still end the same way. But I thought that there should have been some indication that their planning was not what they thought it was. I think that would be an ultimate lesson for them to learn. And especially going into Breaking Bad. Mm-hmm. We're never going to make this planning mistake again, or that kind of thing. But I guess we'll see. We have to see where it goes before we know that.
Yeah, we'll get to the final scene in a second. But the other side of the story, of course, is the Lalo searching for Chicken Man, as they call him.
Gus.
Gus, who we didn't see in this episode, I don't think, right? We didn't see him specifically, but we saw a lot of his operations.
Did we see him? Good question.
Yeah, we did. Of course, he was at the school. I'm mixing
up. Right. Yeah, that's right.
He was at the school giving away some money to kids. So, you know what's interesting about this character is that, does he really believe this, or is he just doing it to put on a show? Is he creating this persona of the successful businessman to hide his meth empire? Or is he doing the meth empire so he can be a great businessman? You don't know which is the most important thing to him. They both seem equally important.
I think the reputation, he cares about running the restaurant, but he cares about it in as much as he doesn't want to call attention to it.
Right.
And if he runs a tight ship, then no one's going to worry about it really. And so I think he cares about reputation only as far as it goes in terms of protecting his meth business. I think that's what it's all about.
So in the end, we find Lalo has tracked down the meth lab, the mother-involved meth labs. He's very. I mean, the opening shot of this episode was crazy. It's just a street image, and all of a sudden, and it's the manhole cover just starts moving, and it's like, oh, I didn't expect that to happen. That's the last place I expected somebody to come from. So that was great. And we find out he's been hiding out in the sewer, spying on the meth lab and trying to figure out what's going on. And such levels of paranoia, like when he's calling Hector Salamanca, his grandfather, right, to tell him what's going on. And just realizes as he's calling that, oh shit, they're gonna trace it. Like of course Fring has tapped the phone, but just that level of paranoia. Like I would never thought of that, but these guys are like kind of upping each other as far as paranoia goes, right?
Here's the part that I found confusing twice. I was confused twice by Lalo's story. The first time when he goes into a sewer, like he's so committed that he will go into the sewer with his barnoculars, and so he set up a little lawn chair and watch through the grate.
Yeah, jugs of water down there. Did you see those big 4-liter jugs of water?
The first, or maybe it was. Oh no, I guess you don't. I guess you can just pee when you're in a sewer.
Pee when you're in a sewer. Pee wherever.
The whole thing's a toilet. But he just like the great outdoors. The whole thing's a toilet. The first thing that confused me is when he looked out of the grate. I thought he was looking at the fast food restaurant.
I did too.
Yes, that is a confusing shot. And I thought
I had to rewind and go, what was he looking at? I didn't see it. What was that? I don't even recognize those signs. Like, this is the first time we've seen this from this angle? I don't know.
See, I think that was a little confusing because I thought, well, yeah, he's going to go to the chicken. Of course, that's where he's going to go to the chicken restaurant to tail Gus. But no, so, okay. And this is, by the way, this is a guy who goes to Germany to get all this intel. So he doesn't seem like he's somebody who would miss a detail. And so then we see him call, and I didn't get the phone tracking thing. I did. Okay. Ultimately, I got it, but I'm not. And I read some interview with a writer, producer, or director, something like that, one of them, where the interviewer said, I didn't get that at first. And then the director was like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I was really wanted to make sure people got that sort of thing, but I didn't at first. And I think it was a little bit confusing. I didn't get, and here's why I didn't get it. At first, so he hears the click on the phone, he hangs up the phone, and he curses and he screams and yells and says, curse you, chicken man, and he's angry, and then he calls again. And I thought, why would you call again if you knew it's being tracked? And then it's like, oh, now he has to lie about what his plans are because now he knows they're listening, which is pretty important. Mm-hmm. But I did not at the time. It confused me. I missed that. I misunderstood what was going on there, and so it's sort of in a way I thought that those two shots could have been, or those two one was a shot, the other was a little sequence. I thought those could be a little clearer for the purposes of having people understand what was going on. Well, maybe it's just me.
No, but I think it's common for a show like this. Again, when you're thinking of all these details, you're not sure what to pay attention to and what not to, and so many things are happening, you lose that. You lose focus sometimes, and you're not sure what parts of the story are important. So I think that's kind of what's happening there. So basically he's tracked down, and he lies and says, "I'm gonna." What does he say? He's gonna get a
go
surprise
to Plan
tonight.
A.
I'm gonna go to Plan A. He's gonna get a surprise tonight.
Yeah, I'm going to take down Gus. He's not going to believe all the stuff that's going to rain down upon him, something like that, right?
Right. And he's dinging his bell, saying, no, that's not good. I don't want that. Did we ever hear them discuss Plan A, or is this something we don't know yet?
I think he's desperately covering his tracks because he knows that he's being listened to, and he just needs a story. He just needs a story. That's it. And he's going to give this guy the story, and it doesn't really matter.
I just thought of something. It doesn't matter if you don't get the phone tap thing, because then we see Mike play it back for Gus. So we know that Gus knows. Like that then it all kind of clicks, right? That's when it's supposed to kind of click together.
Yeah, but understanding Lalo's motivation is the part that you miss.
Yeah, I guess. Like, why is he slamming the chair around? Why is he so upset? He's upset because Gus tapped his phone, the phone. But of course, like, why wouldn't he? Because Gus knows. He's upset. That's what it is. He's upset because he knows that Gus knows he's alive.
Right.
That's
right,
what it is.
But you can't have the exposition of somebody going, "Oh, he tapped the phone." Like it's ridiculous to say that out
okay.
loud.
So that's the part you didn't get. There was a phone tap. I thought he was being paranoid about it. I thought he's sitting there on hold and waiting. And he was going, "Oh shit." They probably tapped the phone, but I didn't think he was sure of it. He seems so sure of it.
I thought he was angry that they weren't putting him through. That's what I thought. I thought he was like,
"Oh wow, that's a big misinterpretation for sure." Yeah,
I thought he was like, "That son of a bitch has made it so I can't get in touch with him."
Okay,
that's what I thought.
That's what happens though when you've got so many details flying around. That's exactly the kind of things that
confusing,
can be misinterpreted. But okay, fair.
There's one little other element that I wanted to point out, and that is I was surprised by something else in the Howard storyline. And that is, okay, so it all goes to plan. It works like a charm. Everything that's supposed to happen happens. But then I didn't expect the part, I thought Howard would be unhinged once he took the medication or whatever they gave him, or might die. I thought Howard might drop dead from the medication. In the previous episode, we see him drinking herbal tea or whatever, and I thought the caffeine or whatever they've given him might kill him. I thought there was a bunch of stuff, but then
I thought the old lady was going to die for a second there because Howard touches the wheelchair, and then I'm like, oh my god, she's going to get that on her skin and she's going to die. Like, this is what's flying through your head, right? Go ahead.
Anything could happen, right? Yeah. Anything, but then Howard is surprisingly coherent and he puts it together. He figures it all out, and in a very coherent and persuadable way explains to Ed Begley what happened. I thought it was a pretty good description. So just like the last minute running around, actually it worked out way better than I thought it would. Howard's explanation about how it all went down, I thought was also pretty good. I did not expect that. I thought they were going to make him look crazy.
But like I said, it doesn't matter. At this point, it doesn't matter. It's too late now. And then we get to see that later on when Howard shows up. And we see, of course, Kim and Jimmy celebrating. They're having sex while they're announcing the settlement. I didn't quite get that until the very end, too, that was the ultimate motivation for all of it, is just to get the settlement faster. I didn't get that was why they were doing it. And there's something else, of course, but I think that was like one of the reasons was they just wanted the settlement, right?
And all they did was listen in. I thought there was going to be more to it than that.
Oh, no, they wanted
the passcode. Yeah. So they were just listening in. But yes, we found out, why are you doing this to Howard? It's because they enjoy it. Or as Howard says, you get off on it. Right. So that's why they're doing this, for no other reason.
And I love that final monologue he has. Like, that's like he's right. Everything he says is right.
Yeah.
Like, it's all very, very petty stuff. None of it is really valid. There's no real reason to do this to him. We get to see, learn a lot about his character just in the first few minutes of this episode when he's at home, when we learn his marriage is in shambles. He's been living in the guest house. Like, that's horrible. It's a horrible way to live, right? So you really feel for Howard in this episode, and then ultimately it doesn't matter.
Well, when there's a knock at the door, and Kim and Jimmy are watching their classic films.
They love those classic films.
Yeah, they sure do. And so he knocks. There's a knock at the door, and at that point, we know it could be Lalo, and we know that it could be Howard. And I
didn't think it would be Lalo. I honestly didn't occur to me that it would be Lalo. I expected it to be Howard.
I said out loud, maybe it's both of them.
Okay.
So it occurred to me that they both could show up at the same time. I thought of that, but I thought the order is pretty important, right? Like if if Lalo shows up first, Howard might hear something and be able to stop it. Right. If Howard shows up first, which is what happened, then then we're in trouble here. And so, of course, Howard shows up first. He gives them a big monologue about, he brings a bottle of wine for Jimmy, because he said, your brother and I used to sit here after a big win, and we used to celebrate with a drink. And so it's your big celebration, Jimmy. Here you go. But what I don't get is why. And it's quite a good speech. And he figures it out. And when he tells them about his marital trouble, and when he tells them about his depression, they kind of look at each other and feel bad. Mm-hmm. They feel bad for a moment. Mm-hmm. Even a moment, even a fleeting glance, they're not all in at this point on the ruse. Although at first they are.
Yeah.
I was really interested in hearing the rest of that conversation, but then Lalo walks in.
Yeah. And I love what they did with a candle, the breath of like the window of the door opens a candle. So Lalo shows up, and you really don't know what's going to happen. Honestly, it could go either way. We've seen him be both a psychotic killer. We've seen him be compassionate. He let Werner's wife live, right? So he doesn't kill everybody he comes across. So he doesn't necessarily need to kill Howard. There was no reason for him to. I didn't expect it.
And Howard's got a great line there. It's funny. It's very funny where he said, he goes, I just want to talk to my lawyers. He goes, I think you better get a better lawyer. and I thought, okay, good. Because I thought that Lalo will go, yeah, you are right. And he's going to let him go.
Uh-huh.
That's what I thought. I thought he's going to let Howard go. But no. Howard just overstays his welcome. I think Howard could have got out of there. He could have. Oh, yeah. He could have turned around and gone, I've said what I need to say. Goodbye. And what would Lalo care at that point? Everybody knows what he looks like. It's not like you're trying to hide. You can't. At that point, everybody knows. But
Lalo knows that Lalo knows that he might die. He's leaving video messages to people, like saying what he's doing. So he's fully aware that he's out now, and people know he's alive. So yeah.
And so Lalo then pulls out his gun, slowly puts the silencer on the gun. And by the way, the acting in Jimmy and Kim is great. I mean, among the actors is great when they're terrified when he walks in. And to Jimmy still doesn't know. Right. Kim never told him that Lalo's alive. So to him, it's like a ghost walked in, and he's terrified when that happens. And they want Howard to leave. And Howard pays the ultimate price. He holds the gun up to Howard's head, pulls the trigger, and it's bye-bye Howard. And now Jimmy and Kim are connected to this corpse in their sitting in Kim's apartment.
And they caused his death. It is because of them. Because of all this shit, because of everything they've done. It ends with their Mark dying. It's their fault he died. Right?
Yeah.
It's horrible. It's horrible. It's just like I can't imagine the guilt they must feel.
Right. And we're going to see that. I think so. The lawyer part of Better Call Saul is over, I think.
Yeah.
I think the law firm part, maybe some indication of Howard's funeral or something like that, maybe. But I think for the most part, the law storyline has left the building, and now it's going to be cartel and flash forwards to Gene.
Yeah.
And I do think, given the number of episodes that are left, we will get at least one complete black and white episode of what Gene is up to.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's true. Now, one quick thing, we're running out of time here, but one quick thing that crossed my mind and we see that as part of the preparations, Mike is pulling in. We've skipped over this part, but he's keeping people on his family's house, right? He's watching. Is he keeping people or is he not? I don't remember what's going on there.
They make it clear that he's pulling people off of the lesser targets,
right,
to put them all on Gus, and that's why there's nobody at Jimmy's house,
right? But I thought they were going to pull from the other house. I thought they were pulling from his granddaughter and that kind of stuff. And I was worried that he might take that. Lalo might go take the girl. Because he said Mike. He walks out and you see Mike in the thing. He's like, Michael. Like, he's going to go after the little girl. Absolutely, I thought that. For sure. But it didn't happen. Or it hasn't happened yet anyway. We still have a few episodes left, I guess.
A kidnapping of some kind.
Oh, man, this is crazy. Yeah. It's so stressful. It's so intense. I love it. It is as good, if not better, than Breaking Bad. And I'm looking forward to rewatching Breaking Bad when this is all over, because I think this is going to have more meaning for all of it. Anyway, go ahead.
Before we call it a podcast, I got to point out that there was a little single still preview for after that, which is not included in AMC Plus, I understand, if you're watching on the video, which a black and white shot of Kim's apartment and a voiceover, which sounds like Jimmy, not like Gene, but I could be wrong, saying, and after all that, a happy ending. That's the preview for the second half of the season.
There's no way there's a happy ending here.
Or it's something like that. He says something to that effect.
Well, that's, a happy ending for who, really, is the question.
Or
happy ending for Lalo?
Yeah.
A happy ending for Lalo means that they all die. So
No, that's not going to happen. But Gene, the question becomes Gene in the flash forward. Who is he going to meet? Kim, probably. or Breaking Bad somehow, or Walter and Jesse somehow need to play into this still. So we're going to see something. And I think it's going to be whatever it will be. I think it's way harder to predict the flash forward than it was this last. Because
it's all new. It's all new. Yeah. Well, we'll wait and see. Of course, we have about a month, but in the meantime, we're going to watch Obi-Wan, which is starting on Friday. So we're going to change the schedule. We're going to work out a bit of a different recording schedule, but we should hopefully have the episodes up closer to the airing of Obi-Wan. We're going to go for next Friday, right? We're going to try and do it next Friday.
Yeah.
And then see if we can get it up next Friday and then go from there. And then we'll take a break for the summer.
That sounds great. And one more question. Will Kim live or die?
I think she dies. I honestly think she dies.
You're going with that dead? Yeah. I'm going with alive.
Okay. We'll see. I think there's no way that Jimmy wouldn't be with her in Breaking Bad if she was still alive. But maybe you're right. Maybe she has to hide. Maybe she has to go into hiding or something
or goes
for years,
prison.
And then like Jimmy does. Like Jimmy goes to Cinnabon, she goes to another restaurant somewhere else in a different city in Middle America. She's doing the same thing. She's doing her version of Gene in some other city.
There could be a whole show.
All right. That's going to do it for this episode of Saul Nerds. I'm Dan Vadabonker.
I'm Kenton Larson. That's Saul, folks.